What is going on, everyone? This is Dr. Josh Funk, and you are listening to the Strength and Knowledge Podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zach Baker of Rehab to Perform and R2P Academy. And today with me, I've got a special guest on with us, Dano Norecide, who is a PT that, unfortunately, I have not had the chance to meet in person, but we've been able to stay connected online, and I've been following him along through his journey, and he's doing some pretty cool things in the field right now. So happy that he was able to squeeze in time from his very busy workday, which he'll get into a little bit on here, and hopefully paint a little picture of a day in the life of what he does with his career, and anybody listening, what it takes to actually get there. So, Dano, I appreciate you making the time on here, and do you mind giving the listeners just a little bit of background about what your current role is and what you're doing in the PT world?
No, for sure. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. So as introduction, Dano Norecide, I am a physical therapist and assistant athletic trainer with the Arizona Cardinals. This is my third season. I've been here since 2021. I'll get into how I got here a little bit later, but that's going to be kind of significant for kind of like how long I've been here and like when I came and started here in Arizona. Born and raised in New York, went through kind of like Catholic all-boys school. Then after that, went to undergrad at Historical Black College at Lincoln University. And then from there, made the decision to try to pursue physical therapy and sports medicine. Did not go and get into a doctorate of physical therapy program right away, immediately after undergrad. I think I had a 2-year gap from 2014 to 2016. 2016, I got enrolled and started the program in NYIT in Old Westbury College School of Osteopathic Medicine. Finished out 2016 through 2019, I think May 19, 2019. That's when I had graduated from DPT program. So going to give a little fast tracked, tried to go the residency route my whole third year, put kind of like all the eggs in the basket, was really tunnel vision into getting into the sports medicine realm. So when I did not match with any residency programs around March of 2019, I made an immediate decision to join a Master's of Athletic Training program immediately after graduating. So May 19th, I graduated. June 1st, 2019, I started my career at High Point University through the Masters of Athletic Training program, a 2-year accelerated program. So then graduated High Point 2021, and then started, you can say, the NFL credentialed clinician career. I started with Kansas City Chiefs as a seasonal athletic training intern / physical therapy intern. It was very fortunate for that experience. I think I started that May 7th, 2021, and then it got cut short October of 2021 because a opening happened, and very thankful for the head athletic trainer at Kansas City. He allowed me to leave out of what I was committed to 1 year and a little bit more and joined the Arizona Cardinals week 4 of the 2021 season. And I've been here ever since.
That's awesome, man. You have had a long and windy road, but one that I would say extremely kind of dedicated to getting to where you want it to be, and a very good example of things are not always linear in regards to the path that you take to get there. But it sounds like you did your homework in regards to what you need to do to put yourself into a position to get into that field. And it's pretty cool that you went from DPT school, tried to go residency route. That stuff didn't, work out the way that you had envisioned, but then went immediately into that master's program with AT. And I'll tell you what, some of the the dual credentialed PT, ATs that I've had the privilege of interacting with and working with, they are some smart people, and they have some experiences that are very unique that not many people, or as many people proportionally in the field, have. And if anybody listening has the chance to pick their brain, I would highly recommend it because I think there's a lot of things that ATs get access to that the PT field just doesn't truly appreciate, and kind of the sense of urgency that you have to work with as an AT. And then also having that background puts you in a position as a PT to do some things where you just have some really unique perspectives. And man, I wish we would have had our residency program when you were going through that process, because you would have been somebody I would have loved to have in our corner. What, Dano, now that you spent some time with the Chiefs, you've been in Arizona. Gosh, man, I did one of my clinical rotations out in Arizona, and I love it out there. And I know that the Cardinals have a good organization. What has been just one of the biggest realizations that you've had working in professional sports? And honestly, there's a lot of different ways that you can go with this, but let's keep it with respect to like logistics, schedule, daily routine. What's something that has really kind of hit home for you over the last 3 years?
Consistency and how fast time flies. So I know I kind of sped through my intro, and I missed one intricate part of it. So immediately when well, not immediately, but after going to High Point University, that's when I kind of started getting the traction of getting into specific setting that I wanted to kind of like learn and be exposed to. So my first exposure to the NFL is all thanks to Kevin King, the current head athletic trainer at Carolina Panthers, because that was my clinical immersion rotation. So my longest rotation as an AT student. So I bring that up because when I say how fast time goes, because I currently have a player here that we were together in 2020, and we kind of like look back and be like, man, bro, like that was kind of now like ages ago. But I remember that was kind of like my first exposure. I was a little nervous, a good nervous, because I didn't know what to expect. But ever since then, things have been rolling. And COVID is no longer something that, with the restrictions and protocols in pro sports that we think of. But like, if I tell you kind of like my daily grind if I go back and kind of like, I remember I did like a newspaper article in regards to like my day in the life as an intern, some of the things that was a concern then and like my roles and responsibility now when I look at it in 2023, just 3 years. Oh man, a lot has happened. The league has changed. A lot of the league in itself, competition, certain things, rule changes. Your stars aren't even the stars that were. It's a lot. So I could say consistency in regards to, yes, I do see myself in a rhythm and kind of like, injury review Monday, player day off Tuesday, like season 3, season 4, that stays consistent, but also at the same time, like, all right, now, I'm talking to you right now and we're getting halfway through the season. And now we can start thinking of, teams that are fortunate for that, playoff talk and combine talk. So it goes by fast. And then, for hopefully, God continues to bless me with exposure in pro sports. But then now, next year, before you think about it, now it's going to be, year 4, year 5, or season 4, season 5, or whatever it is. So it's consistent, but at the same time, just like life in general, things go by fast, man.
It's funny that was actually where my head was going. It's you think about your profession, you think about your career, family, whatever realm. Time does not slow down, especially in your field in pro sports. 3 to 4 years is like 3 to 4 decades, just in regards to turnover that can happen either on a roster or from a personnel standpoint, or just from a philosophy. And I mean, you can get a change up top that has a trickle down effect throughout the whole sports medicine and strength conditioning department. And it is something where if you are not constantly evolving and trying to keep up with the times, they will pass you. And it's wild, man. You talk about COVID, and I vividly remember sitting on my front porch, talking with Josh Funk, the owner of R2P, and very naively thinking like, oh man, this 2-week shutdown's crazy. It's going to be wild, but we'll get through it on the other end. And then before 12, 18 months pass and you're still dealing with it and trying to get to the other end. And now that's been 3 or 4 years ago, and it is wild to look back on. Now, talking about more patient care aspect, and this is something where admittedly, a lot of people say that they want to work in pro sports or they want to work in sports in general, whether that's with high school and youth athletes, whether it's with collegiate or professional athletes. There are different logistical demands that come at all of those different levels, some that are very enticing and exciting to people, others that are admittedly a turnoff. And I think if you laid out your in-season schedule for some people who are aspiring PTs, they would say, holy cow, like, how do you do that? Like, how is that something you even keep up with? And other people would be, looking at the chomps trying to get into that same lifestyle. When you talk about patient care, though, there is a difference between being a PT at an outpatient private practice where you get to work with a high school athlete, and maybe you are the only person that athlete has to talk to them about rehab, strength and conditioning, and returning to sport. When you're with the Arizona Cardinals, there's more than just Dano on the scene. There's ATs, right. There's PTs, there's physicians, there's strength coaches. There's a lot of hands in that pot. What has been kind of your biggest realization that you've had working in sports with regards to patient care with athletes?
I think the biggest realization is that patient care in pro sports is more of a concierge 24/7, 365, maybe let's exaggerate it, 366 type of patient care, right? I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a guy, you built that rapport, you helped them through an injury or so forth, whether you're wearing the AT hat, PT hat, both, or strength and conditioning, sports science, but I'm going to narrow it down to kind of like, PT, AT, clinician. You are case managing them and providing kind of everything under the sun to get the one goal, and their one goal is for them to perform at their optimal level. So if that is being screenshotting the daily schedule of what they need to do, and yeah, it falls into a little bit of babysitting, but at the same time, I grasp the mindset whereas I'm going to help you with everything you need help with so that we can obtain the goal. If again, you're back on the field and, you need my assistance to lock in and know what time to show up here, that's what we're going to do. If, after the game, during the season, I'm providing patient care, and then we get off the plane and you left your car on and you're at the age kind of with generation, you don't even know how to jump start the battery. Like that's part of my job. I'm going to do that too. Yes, it's part of my personality, but that all comes into play. Adjustment to the schedule. If they have a general medication issue while having an orthopedic issue, like that doesn't stop. Yes, you use the team, but at the same time, if that report is built, if you are lead on that case, those are all the things that are going to come into play, even when you're sitting down and having an interdisciplinary approach and we're having kind of like a performance meeting. If there's something about that player, their characteristic, their background, or so forth that needs to be relayed and you feel is going to affect kind of like what the steps that need to get to the goal, I think it would be in the best interest of the player or the athlete to bring that up. Or a certain location that they need to go to, or whether you're adjusting the day for them because they're a single parent currently right now, or their significant other is pregnant or going through something and so forth. But all those things come into effect. And yes, because of the setting and you're with them for a longer amount of time, and it's more so a seven days of attention versus 2 to 3 or maybe 4 to 5, and it's year round. I mean, especially if the guy's contracted with the team and it's a higher pecking order sort of guy, and he's there for an amount of time. Yeah, off season, he may want you to do this, that, and the third for them. And everything is definitely organizational based and league based, difference between NBA, NFL, but it's still concierge service. If you have the ability to do that, you may find yourself, going to that athlete's house or going to a respected area that they're taking vacation, but they still are in off season, post-op or trying to get, a return to play. That's going to be kind of part of your job, and you're going to have to be adaptable. You're going to have to bring the same consistent juice, energy, and work ethic each time because pro athletes, they recognize that. It just takes, it takes a quick second for someone to understand if you care or if you're just, kind of like just checking off the boxes. And the moment that you do show that you care, I think that's the biggest thing that you'll build rapport with. They may not accept it and may not appreciate it at the moment. They may never appreciate it when you want them to. But trust me, like it'll come full circle, and either they will recognize, or the building will recognize, GM, other clinicians. It'll go a long way. But that's the patient care comparison between pro sports and in the outpatient clinic.
No, and that's awesome. And I love how you really touch on just the level of access, that it's a two-way street that you have with the athletes, but that they also have with you. And that can be a blessing and also a burden. And it's something that you have to know what you are getting into. And you alluded to it, you got to be on. Because in order to drive patient outcomes, the patient and the clinician or the provider, they have to be on the same page and they have to trust one another. And you just talked about all of these different external circumstances that can influence somebody's ability to show up that day, and their ability to show up and give it their all and give it their full effort, to trust you, to know that you have their best interest in mind. And it does not take much to lose that trust. And I think that is something that when you talk about collegiate and professional sports or something just above and beyond your more traditional outpatient environment, I interact with people twice a week, maybe 3 times a week for an hour to 90 minutes of their day, like if they're a post-op patient. And other than that, I'm not having much, if any, interaction with them unless there's some sort of special circumstance. Your week is not like that. You may have your dedicated treatment time with them, but the amount of interaction that you'll have formally and informally above and beyond that, it's night and day compared to what my schedule looks like. And it is something where you've got to be dialed in and you've got to be tuned in. And if you are and you make that connection, boom, you are in it, you are locked in with them, and you are part of that team. If you are not locked in and dialed in, guess what? Everybody else in that locker room, whether they're a player or a coach or a healthcare or strength conditioning professional, if they're on board and they don't think you are, odds aren't in your favor that you're probably going to be around on that team for too long. So it's a level of, whether you want to call it stress, whether you want to call it demands, it is something that I think until you've been there, I've never been a pro sports PT, so I can only speak from the outside in. I do truly think you don't appreciate what that feels like until you are involved with that or have seen it firsthand. And it's something that I have friends that are in a high-level coaching positions in Power 5 collegiate sports that have expressed similar things that, hey, when you're doing an internship, you have one thing, but until you're putting in 70, 80, 90-hour weeks in season because bowl games are coming up or playoffs are coming up, you don't really know what those other people are going through until you're in that situation. And, this kind of gets to my next question. Not everybody has the ability to walk into a pro sports job and kind of get a taste of what that's like. For people who are aspiring to get into roles similar to what you have or to get into collegiate pro sport environment and they really want to know what it entails, what kind of advice would you give for them?
I would tell them to seek any possibility to get exposure to the setting or do anything that's going to help them get to where they need to be, and as well as network your ass off. So I'm gonna give you some examples. So with that 2 year gap that I explained in my introduction between 2014 to 2016, it's I play in my head against myself all the time. Like I needed that 2 years, but at the same time, also sometimes I think, man, I wish I didn't have the 2 years, but we won't go into that. But that 2 years allowed me to get so much information so that I can go into the DPT program, tunnel vision, and kind of have my best foot forward. So I remember being a PT aide on Pennsylvania Avenue with Physiotherapy Associates, which is now bought out by NovaCare. And it was, I think 7 to 8 treating clinicians and maybe two techs in the front office. And I remember seeing like 2, 3 younger clinicians that I sort of kind of got a liking to and wanted to kind of be like them, like their approach and so forth. And they would leave out and, kind of still be playing soccer. I think they both went to Marymount, which was a local university in Washington, the DMV area. So I asked them like, why haven't you went into like more sports and kind of like a performance setting clinic wise or with the team. And that they were kind of like the first, and I got a couple friends that were trying to pursue residency and pro sports. So I would pick their brain and ask them like, what's the steps? And now by them giving me the information, I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. I really kind of like drank the Kool-Aid on some of the things that they told me. Oh, you need your CSCS. Well, you need to get rotations that are specifically at exos or with pro athletes and so forth. So now, I know school systems have changed and, program how they schedule with DPT, but I had a program that gave us 4 clinical rotations, right? So with the 4 clinical rotations, and I think I was in the classroom from about, let's say September to April. And then you had the 3 windows of when you can have your clinical rotations. I built a good relationship with my clinical coordinator and I told her, hey, I would like to have all my rotations immediately after we get out of kind of like, the classroom and written exams and so forth. And I told her specifically because I wanted the back end of the summer to, at the time, I was trying to pursue PFATs, Professional Athletic Training Society, athletic training internships while in PT, but I wasn't eligible for it. But I was trying to open up my window for that summer that I knew that, athletes, high school, young phenoms or pro athletes to get exposed to, whether it was at Plex Athlete in Houston, Chris Chambers in South Florida, Exo Satellite Branch in North Carolina, whether I'm folding my hands at a local gym that has, the top phenoms of that area. I just kept wanting to get into sports setting because I knew I wanted to be a sports physical therapist. So whoever's listening, all right, you're not eligible to get into, a formal internship, but nothing stopping you from asking, whoever your local clinician is that sees that type of case for you to go and shadow them, whether it's a formal or informal. Now, built the relationship with that person. You're picking the brain. That can be your distant mentor, or that person can maybe introduce you to someone that they know. Or now, whether or not you get introduced or whatever, you're exposed and you see what it takes to treat an athlete or, what type of care it does. And I can go into that example because I did a lot of outside performance and like sports specific clinics. And by getting that, one, I saw a lot of philosophies that I wanted to adopt, but I also clicked, and that was the realization that made me say, hey, you know what? Like they keep talking about they have to do this and they have to go back to the team. That made me kind of realize that I want team setting and try to work in an athletic training room when I was only pursuing the PT route. So that exposed me to realize that it wasn't enough. Some people that are listening here have not been exposed to, outpatient and performance side of aspects of whether or not figuring out if they want to do that type of setting or if they want to work in an athletic training room with an organization or be a consultant. So you're going to have to be able to expose yourself to that. And the only way to do is to go on internet, go on social media now. Social media has taken skyrocketed since I'm talking about my journey between like 2014 and 2015. What you have access to, what people are posting, just hashtag internship, or look at a clinic, see if they have an intern program, and try to participate in that, and then go on to another level and say, okay, I got this. I want to go to this area. Also, geographical settings matter. So I'm from New York. I'm from the tri-state, but there wasn't a lot of pro athletes around there because the climate and so forth. So I had to start, using my family connection and friends and start falling in love with the culture down South Florida, where, between March or maybe I could say even February to about June, where you're gonna just be in a setting where, whether you go to your physical therapy clinic down the road, or you go to Bomarito, you go to Athletic, you're gonna find a pro athlete, and you're gonna be able to see what it is that it takes. So you're gonna get exposed until you get specifically to the setting that you want to get yourself in. So you got to just keep networking. Any type of communication works, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's DMing someone that you have a liking towards their page, whether it's a phone call, and just whether it's the person giving you a minute, whether they're giving you a lifetime of advice. You just take it and you put that advice in your box. You try to take the information that is relative for you, and try not to reinvent the wheel too much. Don't be too stubborn. Don't try to, say, you know what, his journey was kind of a little bit different. Yes, everybody's journey is a little bit different, but if you have someone that they're in a setting that you're trying to obtain and they got there, I think it's in your best interest to kind of study everything that they did and just tweak it to make it personalized towards you, and then you'll get there. Because somebody that I always kind of shout out, Mike Ankibola, which is a PTAT with the New England Patriots. He did kind of like specifically the journey that I did, with the differences. He did MSAT after residency. So I've been talking to him since he's been in the league, and I was only a PT student. So I looked at it. I looked at his credentials. I kind of observed social media, how he operated as a man. Some of the advice that he was giving me was nothing too crazy. And then when it finally got to that one moment where it's like, yo, do you really want what you're asking for? I was like, yes. And he kind of like, I told him my idea of going back and getting MSAT, and he said, yeah, hey, I did the similar thing after residency. And I was like, you know what, if that's what got him there, that's what I'm going to try to do. And now I'm kind of like a colleague, and I always shout him out and say that he's a great distant mentor. But I kind of didn't mimic, or I didn't reinvent the wheel. I kind of mimicked what his path was.
Dano, that's awesome. One last quick question for you. You have done a lot in your short career so far, and I only envision you doing even bigger and better things. Is there any big aspirations that you have, or any other boxes that you kind of want to check off on your almost like professional bucket list?
Yeah, I'm a climber, so I like kind of climbing the ladder. I do have some big goals, and one of the biggest ones is eventually down the line to be kind of like vice president of performance with the organization. I know that you can't ever kind of like look at a goal and say it's too big, or how long it's going to take, or how short an amount of time. I probably won't get into that, but that is kind of the ultimate goal for me. But at the same time, also like through the professional kind of like checkbox, I just want to be a respected and influential clinician and provider in this setting to younger men and women, if that's granted the opportunity, and like help them in a positive way. So we are clinicians, and I'm a God-fearing man, so I just feel like this is kind of like my purpose and what my gift is, and that's, yes, providing health care, but at the same time, you with all the interaction that we just Afro mentioned when we were talking, and the time you get a chance to kind of like motivate these guys and help assist them for them to provide for their family. So I just want to be, a positive influence for someone, whether it's, I'm helping them, get through the week by dry needling them, if I'm giving them a library of, variation of movement and exposure to movement demands, if that's my task, if I'm consistently just, taping their ankle, or just, giving them a conversation that enlightens them throughout the day. If that's what it is, I just want to do that, and be recognized for consistently doing that at my best ability and the highest level with you kind of like pure intentions. So I hopefully that answered the question.
No, definitely. That is awesome. Dano, I appreciate you taking the time to speak a little bit about a day in the life and how you got to where you are. If people who are listening want to get in touch with you, or just simply kind of follow along your professional journey, and honestly, that's where I remember when you talked about the Chiefs and the Cardinals but left out the Panthers, I was like scratching my head a little bit, because I remember when I started following you along, I remember seeing all the pictures of you at Panthers, summer camp and that kind of stuff. So if people want to reach out, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is great. Instagram is great as well. My tag on Instagram is Dano_Norecide28. Facebook as well. Like I said, when I was kind of in the position of the audience that we're targeting from the podcast, just like you dropped how to contact, if it was a episode that I liked, or it was someone that I felt like I could see myself and we had some similarities, I would immediately follow them, and in the nicest way or form, I would contact them. And also, like, don't be afraid to contact twice. I'm pretty good with answering everything on my phone. That's just, availability for the guys I work with, and family and friends. But yeah, so you just keep knocking on the door. A lot of the relationships and distant mentors I have, I think the one thing that they could say was, like, without nagging them and annoying them, but I consistently reached out, whether it's, hey, good luck with the season, or whether it's just alerting them, like, I just graduated PT school. Now I'm going to, take CSCS. Now I'm going to do this. What's your advice on that? Just keep reaching out, because one of those, shots is going to be someone that's like, hey, you know what? Are you free right now? Like, I got this one slot internship, or I know someone that's looking for this, and so forth, or that's the day of the week that they have time, and they're going to give you 3 hours of informal advice that you probably need, and then it's going to go a long way. So reach out twice, 3 times. Just be respectful of people's times, but at the end of the day, if you really want what you want, just keep knocking on the door. Someone's going to let you in someday.
Awesome. Great advice, Dano. I appreciate the time, and thanks for being on.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Strength and Knowledge Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or have been tuned in for multiple episodes, we would love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Until next time, thanks for listening.